God, I'm gonna be so sad when I can't use this song anymore. Oh, man. I just really get you going. Anyway, welcome to Our Weird World. I am your host, John Henson. We are smack diddly dab in the summer of cults all summer long. Just nothing but cult stories. And this week, we are looking at Synanon.
Story time. Story time. Story time? Story time.
Charles Diedrich was born in 1913 in Toledo, Ohio, to an alcoholic father and a devoutly religious Roman Catholic mother. Diedrich's father died of his alcoholism when Charles was 4, leaving him in the care of his mother, who constantly kept him in church. When Diedrich was 14, he read H.G. Wells's The Outline of History and immediately became what he described as a militant atheist. He also began following in his father's footsteps and started drinking a lot. So, didn't all that work his mom put in to just keeping him in church and trying to prevent him from turning out like his father just turned him into his father. Diedrich's alcoholism forced him to drop out of college and cost him several jobs and his first wife. In 1957, in a desperate attempt to quit drinking, Diedrich, by now he had moved out to California and joined an experiment at UCLA that attempted to use LSD as a cure for various addictions, and it actually worked. He goes into this, which crazy that, again, it's the late 50s, early 60s, government scientists, they're just experimenting with everything. It's just, I've said this before, just the 50s and 60s. You think it's a wild time to live now with AI? Ugh. No. The 50s and 60s. Think about this, right? Say that you were born in 1935. All right. You are born into a world that is just, actually, you know what? Let's back it up even more, right? Let's say you're born in 1913 like Charles Diedrich was, right? As a child, as a very small child, you are living in World War I, all right? That's all you hear about. It is World War I. Everybody's dying. Everything's crazy going on over in Europe, right? It feels very apocalyptic, right? So you're probably pretty scared. Then the 20s come. Everything's great. Oh, it's the roaring 20s. Everybody's super prosperous now. And then a decade later, everything collapses. Stock market collapses. A lot of people lose everything. There's famine. There's just everything's crazy expensive and it's desolate. But then there's hope. Franklin D. Roosevelt comes along. And now we're back into it. We're building everything back up. We're starting to get the momentum again. And then Hitler comes along. All right. And by now, you're in your 30s. So your entire life has just been this giant roller coaster of desolation, profit, desolation, profit. And now Hitler's coming along. And you better not be a Jew. Cool boy. Anyway, we're doing this again, right? We're back in Europe. But this time things are different. Because at the end of World War I or World War II, everything changes. We drop in nuclear bombs. because science has just exploded. And now, not only are we making nuclear weapons that could destroy the entire planet, but now we're experimenting with all kinds of sci-fi stuff. We're trying to figure out time travel, and we're trying to figure out truth serums. And like everything that was inspired by early sci-fi movies, the government was also doing. Like whatever you see in an early James Bond movie, the government was trying to do that for real. Like it's not like these writers were probably just like figuring out what crazy thing to make up next. They were probably just like, yeah, what's the government doing? Oh, X-ray pens? Cool. We'll just do that. Shoe phone? Sure. Let's make a shoe phone. The government probably has that. And they were probably, yeah. So like, and we've talked in past episodes about all the crazy government experiments that were going on. And so like, that is this dude's entire life. It's just insane. So no wonder he became an alcoholic. I don't know how else you cope with that. Well, he was like, well, let me try this experiment where they're trying LSD to cure addictions. And so he takes LSD, he takes a hit, and he's cured. He's cured. I want to do LSD and see what it fixes in me. Maybe I won't be autistic anymore. That would be pretty wild. I just have normal human interactions. I enjoy going out in public without immediately getting overstimulated. Oh, God. Give me the biggest tab of acid. I'll guzzle that down if it'll cure and just make me feel normal. Are you kidding? Oh boy. Anyway, so that's what happened with Diedrich. And when the experiment concluded, he swapped the alcohol for books on philosophy and psychology. And here's the thing, right? Like it may have like got him to stop drinking, but it didn't cure his addictive personality, right? Like that's not what, like whether it's AA or any other kind of rehab or anything, like none of that actually cures the addictive nature and the addictive personality trait that these people have. It just refocuses the addiction to something else. That's why I don't trust or believe any of these like people who get super religious after they have formerly been alcoholics or drug addicts, because they're not, I don't believe that it's necessarily genuine. I think they're just feeding their addiction, which formerly was satiated by alcohol or drugs, with religion. Like, and they're not smart enough to see that because they're being controlled by that addictive personality. So I don't know, man. That's my own cynicism right there. But Diedrich, he gets super into philosophy and psychology. He stops attending his AA meetings and starts holding impromptu meetings with other people that mixed philosophical discussions with group therapy anytime his old AA buddies came by to check up on him. More often than not, after these group meetings, when his old AA buddies came by, they ended up feeling better about themselves, and they also left AA. So Diedrich is basically like taking out Alcoholics Anonymous on his own. He didn't, obviously it's still around, he didn't succeed. And soon though, word began spreading about Diedrich's meetings, and several struggling alcoholics began showing up at his door to try to figure out, like, what is he telling people that's helping them get over their alcoholism? So these sessions became known as Synanons, which was this a word he made up that was a mix of symposium and anonymous. And younger addicts actually began referring to Diedrich as Dad. Weird, all right? Like, Daddy, get me over my alcoholism. Let's have a Synanon. Like, no, that's weird. Don't do that. But you can obviously you can see how this cult started right out of the way. Like, this dude, he's like, yeah, I beat alcoholism. Here's how I did it. Call me Daddy. And they did. The following year, Diedrich moved into a storefront building and incorporated Synanon as a nonprofit. When the city of Santa Monica, California, where he was, declared the Synanon building to be full of code violations, the city actually came in and bulldozed the building, forcing the group to move into an old National Guard armory building by the beach. Soon after the move, Diedrich was arrested for, quote, operating a hospital in a residential zone and spent 25 days in jail. And again, Is it a hospital? Like, what's going on in these meetings? We'll find out. Where it's now being classified as a hospital, where he's like, it's loose, right? But it's like you're curing people of addiction. Addiction is a medical condition, I think, in some circles. And so if you're not in a proper zoning, government, whatever, it's so stupid. Anyway, soon after the move, so he spends 25 days in jail. The news of all of this, with Diedrich being jailed for operating a hospital for helping all of these addicts, the news of this only caused Synanon to grow in popularity, mostly because Diedrich's methods were actually working and were getting people clean. He was getting them addicted to something else, but it wasn't drugs or alcohol, so that's good, right? The group was even featured in the Los Angeles Times, New York Times, and Time magazine. A lot of time. Diedrich was also credited for saying, quote, "Today is the first day of the rest of your life." That's a really famous quote. You see it everywhere. It's attributed to this cult leader. By 1970, Synanon had at least 3,400 members and made nearly $3 million a year in donations. The group also owned $7 million worth of real estate in several cities all over the country, along with an advertising firm and numerous gas stations for some reason. Even more, the California court system often ordered convicted juveniles to enroll in Synanon's programs rather than AA or other state-run drug treatment centers. So, like, despite, breaking the law, like it was a, bureaucratic arrest, basically. Like, the government quickly realized, like, hey, this guy's figured something out. Like, we're not even going to use Alcoholics Anonymous anymore. They suck, right? We're going to this guy, and he's getting all kinds of good press. Like, through the donations that he got, he starts opening up, like, other rehab centers. I don't know why I get the advertising firm, because the advertising firm, how else are you going to recruit people, right? That makes sense. The gas station one is weird. It's like, I don't know what gas station it was. It probably doesn't exist anymore, but it'd be weird if just like all of a sudden we find out like, oh yeah, Quick Trips are owned by cult members, this giant cult. I mean, like there's restaurants out there that does it, right? But anyway, despite all of this success and everything going, things in Synanon were getting pretty weird. Here you go. All of the members started shaving their heads and wearing nothing but overalls. Rather than attend meetings, though, members lived on compounds up and down the California coast because they owned all that real estate, and they constantly underwent the group therapy sessions. Even people who weren't dealing with addiction issues were leaving everything behind and joining the group, because it's like, hey, these people are happy. They're figured it out. I'm not addicted to drugs, but they seem happier than I am, so I'm going to go join. As membership grew, Diedrich decided to drop the graduation element of the program that he originally had, right? Because again, he built this based off of kind of the Alcoholics Anonymous group therapy model, right? Where you get together in a group, you say, hi, my name's Bob and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Bob. And then you talk about how you struggled with your alcohol this week. And everybody's like, yeah, buddy, it's okay. We're going to get through this together. And then they, figure it out. And then you graduate. You go through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Well, Diedrich had a similar model. Like, he's doing all the group therapy and people graduated, but he quickly, he saw that he was basically in control of all these people. They were giving him all their money. They shaved their heads for him. They were all wearing overalls for some reason. And so he dropped the graduation of the graduation element of the program and began kind of preaching that Synanon was this lifelong commitment that people had to make. He also began telling members that he wanted to create a utopian society where everyone lived a life free of crime and drugs. It's so optimistic. There's a robot vacuum that's trying to do work while I'm trying to record. And it's getting louder because it's coming into the room. And I gotta, okay. No, we're not doing this. Hang on. No! There's a bad vacuum! No! Close the door. I should cut all of this out, but I'm not going to, because why would I? I keep 98% of the nonsense I say. Anyway, we're back. This is the dumbest show of all time. So he's talking about how he wants to create this utopian society. And the group ultimately stopped identifying as a drug treatment program and instead as a psychotherapy program and experimental society. So what kinds of therapy? So they're not really doing group therapy anymore. So what are they doing? Their biggest form of therapy was known as the game. Now, if you listen to the episode on the Elan School a few weeks ago, the Elan School took this element that I'm about to tell you about right now as part of their system in the school. And it didn't go very well. All right. It was a very terrible thing. So what was the game? During the game at Synanon, which often lasted as long as 72 hours, one member would talk in front of the group about themselves and their personal problems. In response, the other members would throw out extremely harsh criticisms and verbal abuse, often at the top of their lungs. So basically, it's not like, hi, I'm Bob and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Bob. It's more like, hey guys, I'm Bob. I struggle with drugs and alcohol. Oh, Bob, you suck. You're such a fat lard. Look at you. No wonder you're addicted to drugs. Kill yourself. Just, God, look at your face. No one, the only thing that can love you is drugs. You're such an unlovable prick. Like, just, not just terrible things like that. I really censored myself. There were so many other worse things I wanted to say, but I didn't. Anyway, in 1974, while all of this is going on, the federal government granted religious status to Synanon, which by then had amassed assets valued at more than $20 million. And this is what they had in 1974. They had 200 cars, 400 motorcycles for some reason, 62 trucks, 20 boats, and a dozen airplanes. Diedrich alone made $100,000 each year and gave himself an additional $500,000 pre-retirement bonus. Okay. All of this coming from like donations and just people, coming to this, cult and giving him their stuff. Diedrich preyed on his members' gullibility and told them that they didn't need to think about what was going on because thinking was what got them in trouble in the first place. Remember, you thought about doing drugs and then you did them. And now look where you are. So instead, stop thinking. Just listen to me. Just do as I say. Don't think about it. Just take your pants off. Don't think about it. Just do it. It's fine. Here, just turn around. Let me just spread your butt cheeks apart a little bit. Don't think about what I'm saying. Just do it. And just, and people were doing it. It's California. They just needed, everybody just needed to trust him. And since they had gotten, he had gotten them clean from drugs, like he had actually done something that worked. So they all inherently just trusted him. Diedrich forced members to live at these Synanon compounds and to break off all contact with their families because, again, just like you thought about it, you thought about drugs. Guess who also got you addicted to drugs? Your family did. Your family made you addicted to these drugs in the first place. Why? Because your mom was weird. Your mom just did so many things to screw up you mentally that you had to just start taking drugs to get over it. So why are you still in contact? Why do you still go home for Christmas? Don't. Cut off all contact. No contact. So it was fine. He also eventually created a no children mandate, encouraging women to get abortions if they got pregnant while living on the compound. And he equated this process to nothing more than, quote, squeezing a boil. Ugh. To be fair, he also encouraged the men to get vasectomies, which included intense sessions of the game to men who refused. So it's just like, at least he's like fair about it, right? He's forcing women to get abortions who get pregnant. But also he's encouraging the men to get vasectomy. So it's like, it's not even about just, pulling out. It's like, hey, just let's not have any more kids altogether. Like, kids ruin everything. So let's just have our nice utopian society without kids. You ever go anywhere and there's a kid? It sucks. It ruins the fun, right? You can't have a nice night out if there's some kid running around, climbing all over the tables around you, screaming because they're tired, because they're out too late. It sucks. Let's just not have any kids. Oh, you don't want to get a vasectomy? Oh, okay. You got 3 women pregnant and they all had abortions, but you can't get a little snip snip? Good. We're playing the game. Go sit down and tell us why you think your stuff is just so magical you can't get a vasectomy. Oh, here's Dave. Oh, here's Dave with the magic penis. Brr, brr, brr. He can't get a vasectomy because he's a little baby boy. Brr, brr, brr. Just... but like way worse than that, And that would typically work, right? Like they'd send him through the game, and Diedrich, because he knew this, Diedrich would just have doctors waiting in another room to perform the procedure as soon as these dudes eventually agreed to it. In 1977, Diedrich's second wife, Betty, died. And in response, he had his female followers submit applications to be his new bride. He eventually chose 31-year-old Jenny Shorin, a teacher at one of Synanon's schools. However, Diedrich did not want this marriage to be permanent and actually developed a new rule outlining 3-year quote-unquote love matches. And within days of the announcement, 230 couples in the cult filed for divorce from each other. And here's the thing. I don't hate this idea, all right? I don't like how he executed, but hear me out, all right? My wife is probably listening to this. She's probably a little suspicious right now, but hear me out, right? I think you should have to renew your marriage license every so often, just like you have to renew your driver's license, right? And I think for half of couples, that's not a big deal, all right? You fill out a thing online, you say everything's good, whatever, and then you're good for another 5 years, right? And I think that in order to incentivize this, all right, one, you make the tax benefits for married couples a lot better, and you make divorce penalties for canceling a valid marriage license before the renewal date so much more harsh. All right. And then, you have a standard asset split if at the renewal date you both decide you don't want to renew. Right. So, there's so much more that needs to be thought out about that. But I think that would be fine. And honestly, I think it for couples that are happy, at least, your marriage license renewal date becomes this big thing. It becomes a fun little thing. It's oh, we're about to renew our marriage license. And, oh yeah, we do still love each other. Oh, and then it just becomes a thing that you can do, and you have a little party. And it's hey guys, we renewed our marriage license. Come on over, have some fun. It just becomes a fun thing you can do. All right. And I'm still in a place. I would love to do that again. Right? The only other way you can do that and remind yourself that you're happily married is to renew your vows. And sure, you have your wedding anniversary every year, but it's a thing. But it's just oh, hey, remember on this day some years ago we did a thing. But it's not. It's you go out to eat or whatever. But renewing. So I don't hate this idea. I hate how he executed it, but. Because, Diedrich goes into this. It's every 3 years you get matched with new people as long as you're single, right? And so it's crazy that there were 230 married couples in this cult at this point. That's insane in and of itself. And then there was probably more, but 230 immediately filed for divorce so they can get within these new love matches. Obviously, though, not everyone was into it. And anytime a member tried to leave the cult, they were tracked down and savagely beaten by the group's Imperial Marine Squad. Some of the more than 80 incidents where this happened included Tom Cardino, who was tied to a post and beaten while he was on his honeymoon, a man named Gambonini, who was helping children at a Synanon teen treatment center run away and return to their parents. He was tracked down and beaten. So this guy, he wasn't part of the cult, but he was helping children who were at one of the teen treatment centers break out and get back to their parents. He was tracked down and beaten. A woman named Rosalina Cole, who had received a court order to enroll in Synanon, she actually just disappeared in 1972 and has never been found. Phil Ritter, whose wife and child were still in the cult, was attacked with wooden mallets in a grocery store parking lot. Former Synanon President Jack Hurst, his dog was hanged after he left. It's crazy. Phil Morantz, a lawyer who filed lawsuits on behalf of ex-members, had a rattlesnake planted in his mailbox. And then when he opened the mailbox, the snake bit him, sending him to the hospital for 6 days. You want to talk about like some low-key terrorism? Like, and it would never happen like where I live, thank God. But like, man, out in the desert, like Arizona or somewhere, just like a group of like teenagers who just grab... we just go and like catch a bunch of rattlesnakes out in the wild and just put them in people's mailboxes. Oh God, that's hilarious, but horrifying at the same time. Because like now, because I know all of you today, if you remember this story, you're going to just like open your mailbox very carefully for no reason. You know there's not going to be a rattlesnake in there, but you never know. You ever like open your mailbox and a bee flies out? It's horrifying. I get it. And now you're going to, now I just added rattlesnake to that list. Just like oh boy. Anyway, in 1983, Los Angeles authorities traveled to Synanon's $1 million compound in Lake Havasu on the border with California and Arizona and arrested Diedrich on conspiracy to commit murder following the Morantz incident where he had a rattlesnake in his mailbox. In exchange for avoiding prison time, Diedrich pleaded guilty and promised to avoid any future affiliation with Synanon. At this point, the IRS quickly swooped in, revoked the group's tax-exempt status, and ordered the group to pay $17 million in back taxes, which seems light considering everything they had. However, by 1981, Synanon declared bankruptcy and shut down. Diedrich and his... I guess, it was permanent now. His permanent wife, Jenny, quietly moved into a trailer in Visalia, California, and then Diedrich died 6 years later in 1997. There you go. Synanon in the books. Let us quickly recap and see what we learned today. What did we learn? Number one, what's his face? Charles Diedrich. I've been saying his name the whole time. I can't remember it now. Charles Diedrich. Like, again, born at the craziest time in human history, right? Born in 1913, died in 1997. Lived a crazy life. 84 years of the craziest years, right? And honestly, like the last probably 15 years of his life, even though he was this massive cult leader, probably the least craziest in terms of like broader societal history, right? He lived through World War I and World War II, the Great Depression, lived through Vietnam, lived through all of the crazy like scientific experiments and all that stuff. Those people there's no way you could ever say that living now is crazy. Even with, he also lived through the Spanish flu pandemic. Like all of these things, he lived through it. And just like, we had COVID in 9/11. Who cares? Like, whatever. Anyway, number two, he joined this experiment at UCLA that used LSD to try to cure addictions, and it worked. I guess it didn't work on enough people because they don't use LSD to treat. I guess also probably because LSD is like way more powerful, does a lot more crazy stuff. But God, I want to do LSD so bad. Oh, it'll be so fun. But he parlayed that into creating this massive cult that did all the cult things. You get it. Number three, here's a bonus little tip, bonus little piece of info from this cult. George Lucas was not a member of this cult, but while he was filming his movie THX 1138, he needed several extras with shaved heads. And remember, all of the Synanones were shaving their heads. Diedrich never asked them to do this, by the way. They just did it. And George Lucas needed a lot of those extras with shaved heads. And so he hired several members of Synanon to be in this movie, which is basically like set in this dystopian future where citizens are controlled by robot police and are forced to take drugs that suppress their emotions, which honestly sounds. I don't hate that. Anyway, whatever. So if you ever want to watch that movie, it came out in 1971, I think. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere or anything like that, but if you ever watch it, it has a bunch of cult members in it. So there's that.
What did we learn?
Next week on Our Weird World, the Summer of Cults continues with the story of Dwight York and the Nuwaubian Nation. It's going to be a big story. It's a very long story next week. There's just, all of the cult things. Nothing, I don't think there was anything particularly, unique about it. I mean, they just did a bunch of crazy stuff. Like, stereotypical and comically culty. That's how I'll tease next week's episode. But that's it. Thank you so much for continuing to listen. Keep telling all your friends and keep it weird.
This is a podcast